Chapter 14 of the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. Chapter 14 A General Good Time. The Harem. French. By and by, when we got up, we turned over the truck the gang had stole off of the wreck, and found boots and blankets and clothes, and all sorts of other things, and a lot of books, and a spyglass, and 3 boxes of cigars. We hadn't ever been this rich before in neither of our lives. The cigars was prime. We laid off all the afternoon in the woods talking, and me reading the books, and having a general good time. I told Jim all about what happened inside the wreck and at the ferry boat, and I said these kinds of things was adventures. But he said he didn't want no more adventures. He said that when I went in the Texas and he crawled back to get on the raft and found her gone, he nearly died, because he judged it was all up to him anyway, it could be fixed. For if he didn't get saved, he would get drowned, and if he did get saved, whoever saved him would send him back home, so as to get the reward, and then Miss Watson would sell him south, sure. Well, she was right. He was most always right. He had an uncommon level head for a nigger. I read considerable to Jim about kings and dukes and earls and such, and how gaudy they dressed, and how much style they put on, and called each other your majesty, and your grace, and your lordship, and so on, instead of Mr., and Jim's eyes bugged out, and he was interested. He says,
I didn't know dey was so many on 'em. I hain't hearn 'bout none on 'em, scarcely, but old King Solomon, unless you counts dem kings that's in a pack of kyards. How much do a king get?
Get? I says, why, they get $1,000 a month if they want it. They can have just as much as they want. Everything belongs to them.
Ain't that gay? And what they got to do, Huck?
They don't do nothing. Why, how you talk. They just sit around.
No, is that so?
Of course it is. They just sit around, except maybe when there's a war. Then they go to the war. But other times, they just lazy around, or just talking. Just talking and Shh! Do you hear the noise? We skipped out and looked, but it weren't nothing but the flutter of a steamboat's wheel away down, coming around the point. So we come back. Yes, says I, and other times, when things is dull, they fuss with the Parliament, and if everybody don't go just so, he whacks their heads off, but mostly they hang around the harem.
Round the which?
Harem.
What's the harem?
The place where he keeps his wives. Don't you know about the harem? Solomon had one. He had about 1,000,000 wives.
Why, yes, that's so. I done forgot it. A harem's a boarding house, I reckon. Most likely they has rackety times in the nursery. And I reckon the wives quarrels considerable, and that creased the racket. Yet they say Solomon the wisest man that ever live. I don't take no stock in that. Because why would a wise man want to live in the midst of such a blim-blamming all the time? No, 'deed he wouldn't. A wise man had taken build a biller factory, and then he could shut down the biller factory when he wants to rest.
Well, but he was the wisest man, anyway, because the widow, she told me so, her own self.
I don't care what the widder say. He warn't no wise man nother. He had some of the dad-fetchedest ways I ever see. Does you know 'bout that child that he is going to chop into?
Yes, the widow told me all about it.
Well den, warn't that the beatin'est notion in the world? You just take and look at it a minute. Dar's the stump, dar. That's one of the women. Here's you. That's the yother one. I's Solomon, and this yere dollar bill's the child. Before you's claim it, what does I do? Does I shin around among the neighbors and find out which one of you the bill do belong to and hand it over to the right one, all safe and sound, the way that anybody that had any gumption would? No, I take and whack the bill in two, and give half on it to you, and the other half to the other woman. That's the way Solomon was going to do it with the child. Now I want to ask you, what's the use of that half a bill? Can't buy nothing with it. And what use is half a child? I wouldn't give a darn for $1,000,000 on 'em.
But hang it, Jim, you've clean missed the point. Blame it, you've missed it 1,000 mile.
Who, me? Go along, don't talk to me about yo pence. I reckon I knows sense when I sees it, and they ain't no sense in such doing as that. Disputed wa'n't 'bout a half a child. Dispute was 'bout a whole child, and the man that think he can settle a 'spute 'bout a whole child with a half a child don't know enough to come in out of the rain. Don't talk to me 'bout Solomon, Huck. I knows him by the back.
But I tell you, you don't get the point.
Blame the point. I reckon I knows what I knows. And mind you, the real p'int is down furder. It's down deeper. It lays in the way Solomon was raised. You take a man that's got only 1 or 2 children. Is that man going to be wasteful of children? No, he ain't. He can't afford it. He knows how to value 'em. But you take a man that's got about 5,000,000 children running round the house, and it's different. He as soon chop a child in two as a cat. There's plenty more. A child or two, more or less, want no consequence to Solomon. Dad fetch him.
I never see such a nigger. If he got a notion in his head once, there weren't no getting it out again. He was the most down on Solomon of any nigger I ever see, so I went to talking about other kings, and let Solomon slide. I told him about Louis XVI that got his head cut off in France a long time ago, and about his little boy, the Dolphin, that would have been a king, but they took him and shut him up in jail, and some say he died there.
Poor little chap.
But some says he got out and got away, and come to America.
That's good, but he'll be pooty lonesome. There ain't no kings here, is there, Huck?
No.
Then he can't get no situation. What he going to do?
Well, I don't know. Some of them gets on the police, and some of them learns people how to talk French.
Why, Huck, don't the French people talk the same way we does?
No, Jim, you couldn't understand a word they said. Not a single word.
Well, now, I be ding busted. How did that come?
I don't know, but it's so. I got some of their jabber out of a book. Suppose a man was to come to you and say, Parlez-vous français? What would you think?
I wouldn't think nothing. I'd take and bust him over the head. That is, if he want white. I wouldn't low no nigger to call me that.
Shucks, it ain't calling you anything. It's only saying, do you know how to talk French?
Well, then why couldn't he say it?
Why, he is a saying it. It's a Frenchman's way of saying it.
Well, it's a blame ridiculous way, and I don't want to hear no more about it. There ain't no sense in it.
Looky here, Jim. Does a cat talk like we do?
No, a cat don't.
Well, does a cow?
No, a cow don't nother.
Does a cat talk like a cow, or a cow talk like a cat?
No, they don't.
It's natural and right for 'em to talk different from each other, ain't it?
Course.
And ain't it natural and right for a cat and a cow to talk different from us?
Why, most surely it is.
Well then, why ain't it natural and right for a Frenchman to talk different from us? You answer me that.
Is a cat a man, Huck?
No.
Well, then, there ain't no sense in a cat talking like a man. Is a cow a man, or is a cow a cat?
No. She ain't either of 'em.
Well, then, she ain't got no business to talk like either one or the other of 'em. Is a Frenchman a man?
Yes.
Well, then, dad blame it, why don't he talk like a man? You answer me that.
I see it weren't no use wastin' words. You can't learn a nigger to argue. So I quit. End of chapter 14.